Fred, in order to get a handle on what's really real, one of the things I like to think about kind of at night are what things really exist. What are the things, is there only a material world? I could ask some people that and they'd say just physical things, things that are made of particles and forces and things that we know in the world of fundamental physics. Others might add spiritual things. How do you view that question? If you say, what are the things that really exist?
The way to approach that, I think, is through how do we decide what's real and what isn't real, rather than deciding just what is, but
Okay.
how. The how, to me, is the most important thing. As a physicist, that's how I learned to think. How do we decide something is real? Well, we decide because of what senses we can bring to it. If I can touch it and it feels that I can sense pressure returning from it, I think of it or see it or cognate that it's something solid. I can smell it, I can taste it, I can hear it. We have so-called five senses. The Buddha said we have a sixth sense called the mind sense. So now the mind sense can see objects in there, and therefore are those objects that the mind sees real? Buddha would say yes, and we might say no, because we only believe in the first five. Spend some time with Native Americans and ask them about how many senses they have. They say that they have 15, in which they say reality can be shaped from their 15 senses, which go far beyond the so-called, what we would call, the limitation of the five physical. So to me, what's real, what's exists, depends on what you believe you can sense.
Well, what one believes may not be true. People have believed a lot of things which are erroneous. I mean, I want to know what's really real, not what people believe is real.
No, not what you believe you can sense.
Okay.
That means what you believe you're capable of sensing.
I can imagine angels that have horns.
Can you sense them?
I can sense them through my mind, but I know that's not real.
How do you know they're not real?
Well, because I know that my other senses, I've not seen evidence of it, and I can imagine all sorts of crazy things that I can't prove are not real. You can't prove things like that.
I totally understand. There's been experiments that show that if 2 or 3 of your senses are loaded with information that tells you something is real, the other senses would go along with it.
Okay.
So, if that's the case, then maybe what's happening in your angels with horns is that the other senses just aren't going along with it.
Okay.
I mean, if a real horny angel were to appear in the room right now, they would say, "Whoa, what's that?"
Right.
And they would go along with it.
Right. Okay.
So you see, again, I might walk in the room and you might be seeing a horny angel, and you may be even, making love with it or some weird thing that you're doing with it. I don't know. And I won't see it at all. And now the question is, what's real? Or you might be in a hospital where you're a schizophrenic.
Sure.
And,
Sure.
You're having these schizophrenic episodes.
Sure. That's why
That's very real to the schizophrenic.
Sure.
Who are we to say, who are we to make the judgment that because our senses don't pick it up, a shaman walks into the same room and sees the same person, that same consideration, and says, "Of course you're seeing this, because I see it too."
That's right. And therefore, I'm asking you because I don't trust my own sense of belief and rejection, perhaps, of things that I don't think are real, because even though I can imagine them, or other people can imagine them. So I want to ask you, based on your experience and your work, both as a scientist and having a great deal of knowledge of different cultures and different ways of seeing the world, of believing, what you think is real. Not what some schizophrenics think and not what some shamans may imagine, but what you think, taking all that into consideration, what you think is real.
I think nothing is fundamentally real, but I pay strict attention to whatever my senses tell me is real, because those are the agreements that I have to be and to exist.
Okay, so what your sense tells you to real is certainly the physical world. So you accept the physical world is real in some sense.
Sure.
Okay.
To some sense.
Anything else? Anything else that you're convinced is real other than the physical world?
Well, I think that dream states that I've entered, in which I've gone into other realities, were very real to me while I was having them.
Okay, real to you means your psychological experience. Does that
I
mean though that
understood.
that you really entered some other kind of
Exactly.
existence? That you believe that.
I believe,
So
yeah.
your dream state that you were in was not just a psychological experience within the confines
No.
of this physical
No,
space.
because I had more than one sense telling me it's real. If it was only a dream, a flat, ramble of stuff, I would say it's a dream. But if I have several of my senses saying, hey, I can feel that. This guy's talking to me. I can hear him. I can feel my body and I can see where my hands are. And I willfully look down. I have the sense of mind presence. That's real to me. So who am I to say that when I wake up that was just a dream? Just saying it's a dream to me dismisses the possibility that I may have gone to another reality. And who knows?
So therefore, you're willing to accept, maybe not 100%, but willing to accept the strong possibility that realities that you see in dreams or in altered states is a real kind of thing.
For a very important reason. Because other cultures don't see the same physical stuff that we do. They don't see the same reality that we do. So if they don't, and their language doesn't even indicate that that's of things important to them.
Is that kind of existence similar to the same thing as what some people would talk about as a spiritual existence, a God plane existence, or is it totally separate? Are we dealing with different kinds of realities?
We're dealing with overlapping sensorial realities. And it's arrogant of us to assume that because we're scientifically minded in dealing with the five senses we commonly call our senses, that's the superior one. That's where we make our fatal error. That's where we cause a lot of problems in the world because we don't recognize other sensoriums.
If we can loose ourselves from that common wisdom that may not be so wise, as you say, what then do we find? We find the physical world. We find a world that can be accessed through dreaming or altered states. And I still want to know, is the spiritual world, the godlike existence, the gods or angels or whatever that some people talk about, would that be the same as this dream world, or are those completely different planes?
It could be the same. It could be different because the language structure of our way of dealing with this other world is to see them as otherworldly, whereas their language structure would see us as otherworldly. And they would be in the same pickle that we're in, trying to describe, what the heck are you guys talking about?
So would it be fair to say then that the one thing that you would be reasonably sure of is that the material world that we see is not the only plane of reality?
I would say that it's only a glimpse of a particular way of looking that gives us a momentary glimpse of reality. But there's something much deeper.